Today I'm talking about how I knew I was dating the right person after toxic relationships. So I've got a new setup here. I wanted to try getting in a more comfortable position. Normally I used to do videos. I would do them sitting in a chair and with a different background. The background was pretty, but let me know what you guys think of this new setup and if you like it, if I should keep using it. But in case you're new here, before I get into what I want to talk about, my name is Lindsay and I am the Real Love Alchemist, and I help you go from bad relationships to real love with the magic of subconscious work. So if you're interested in working with me, I'll leave the link in the description here. You can check out what I do. So let's get into this topic today. How I knew I was dating the right person after toxic relationships. So a little bit of a backstory about me. I went through a couple of really painful relationships. I was married for almost 10 years to a person who was emotionally unavailable. And then shortly after that, divorce. While I was actually getting divorced, I got into an abusive relationship with someone who was narcissistic. So this was a really tough 1-2 punch. And getting into the healthy relationship that I'm in now, I actually was pretty confused in the very beginning about whether I was with the right person or not. I had a lot of doubts. I had a lot of resistance still to being in a healthy relationship. I had a lot of resistance to intimacy that I had to work through. And this is actually the work that I do now with my clients. I help them release the blocks that they have to real love and intimacy because I had to go through it myself. And I found some really good tools that I use for that. So again, if you want to work with me, that's in the description, the link to that. But it was very confusing for me for a while because, like I said, I had a lot of doubt, had a lot of resistance, but I eventually figured out that I am in a good relationship. This is the person I want to be with. So I want to go through some of the things that helped me to really have that clarity that I was dating the right person. So I've got my list here. I'm going to go through it. I made a post about this on Instagram. And if you don't follow me there, it's the Real Love Alchemist on Instagram. And I went through, I think it was like 6 or 7 things that I talked about being reasons why I knew I was with the right person. But I wanted to go a little bit more in depth with it here. I'm still going to share like the 6 reasons, but I wanted to share something that I didn't talk about on Instagram. I really didn't have room for it. But one of the first things that really helped me to get clarity that came into my awareness pretty quickly in the relationship with my now partner was my intuition. So let me talk about this for a little bit. So as soon as I met my partner, I had this feeling that I should stick around with him. And I've been talking to other people about this lately, about like what intuition really is and how you can tell that it's there. And for me, this intuition felt like this force, this like underlying force or energy that was immovable. It did not change no matter how I felt, no matter if I was feeling like lots of love for this person, or if I was feeling doubt, or if I was feeling scared, or there were times when I was feeling resistance to the relationship, and that would show up as like what we would call the ick, or like some repulsion. No matter what I was feeling, that intuition stayed present the whole time. And what it gently whispered to me was, keep going. Keep sticking with this person. It's gonna be good. Now it didn't come in words like that, but that was the feeling, because there were actually times where I did want to walk away because I did have a lot of resistance to intimacy. And my partner and I had some things that we had to work through. And yeah, there were a lot of times where I said, you know what, I'm not going to do this. This is not the right person. And that intuition kept me from walking away. What I realized was that I had actually never had that intuition in a relationship before. The intuition that I had in my past relationships was telling me the opposite. It was telling me that this wasn't the right person for me. It was telling me that there was a better relationship out there for me. There was more love for me out there. It took me a long, long time to be able to listen to that because I was so scared. Like I couldn't even, when I was married, I couldn't even imagine being with another person. So I couldn't even access that intuition until I did. It took me a while, but I was finally able to. But I realized the difference between this current healthy relationship and those other past toxic relationships, those unhealthy relationships. There wasn't that intuition that I have now. So that was really, that was a big thing that kept me in this relationship and still keeps me in this relationship, because there are times where we have conflicts. It's gotten much, much better. We've kind of mellowed out a bit, but sometimes things come up, and sometimes I still have my own anxieties and doubts that come up. But that intuition, it's like it just pulls me through. It says, no, like this is a good relationship. Let's just see what happens here. So that was the big one. But let me now go through my other list here of like the 6 different things that were made it very clear to me that I was in a good relationship. And this was somebody that I could be myself with and who I could feel supported by. And the really big thing was I never had to guess where I stood with him. So what does this mean? This means I always knew how he felt about me and what his intentions were because he told me. I know this sounds like, well, duh, but in my past, that wasn't happening. Like when I was married, my partner was unavailable, and I actually really never knew how he felt about me or where I stood with him. Like, yes, we were married, but the whole time I had this feeling like maybe he only married me because it was convenient, or it was just like the right thing to do, the next thing to do. I really didn't know where I stood with this person. Same with the narcissistic person I dated. I had no idea how he felt because he really didn't tell me. So my current partner was always upfront about really liking me in the beginning and wanting to start dating, and he wanted to call me his girlfriend like pretty early on. I think he said I love you pretty early on. Not love bombing, it wasn't immediate, but like at an appropriate point. So I felt really secure. I felt in the relationship that, yeah, this person really likes me and wants to be with me. So that was a big thing. That was a big indicator. That was technically the first one, even though intuition was the first one. But the second thing that made me realize I was dating the right person after toxic relationships was the fact that he was willing to change his behavior when something made me uncomfortable. So like I talked about, we had some things to work through in the beginning. I might make some other videos on that later, but we would have some conflicts, and I would bring up something that hurt me. I would say, hey, like this thing hurt me. Could you do this differently? And he always was open to doing it differently. He was always very willing to listen to how I was feeling. And I could tell that he genuinely cared about how I felt, how whatever he was doing made me feel. He always apologized if there was something that hurt me. And even if he wasn't able to shift the behavior right away, like maybe he had to do some work on his end to do something differently, he was always willing to, and I could always see progress in whatever he was working on. And that was huge for me because that's what I do in my relationships, and I hadn't had that in the past. In my toxic relationships, I would bring something up to my partners, and it's like it would go in one ear and out the other. It didn't feel like they really cared about how I was feeling. And certainly in the narcissistic relationship, there was no attempt made to do anything differently. So that was a really big deal to me. I knew I wanted a partner who was able to grow and shift with me and the relationship, because again, like that's what I bring to the relationship. I'm willing to do that for my partner. And so that's how I knew this was somebody who would make a really good partner for me. Water break. So the third thing that made me sure that I was dating the right person after toxic relationships was the fact that my partner, was clear that his goal was marriage. And because I was super clear about that going in. I wanted to get married again. And I knew that I needed somebody who wanted that too. So like really early on, like in the very, very beginning of really talking to each other more seriously as potential romantic partners, because we were actually friends first. But when we started talking about dating, like I asked him very, very early on, like, what do you want out of dating? What are you looking for? Do you want to get married someday? And he said yes. He said yes to all of the above. And so that's how I knew that this was somebody that I could go the distance with. Not immediately in that moment. I thought, okay, this could work. But over time, he was consistent with his actions. That, like he said he wanted marriage, he continually acted like a person who wanted marriage. You might be asking, well, what does that look like? Well, it first looks like making sure someone knows that you are committed to them, calling them your girlfriend, calling them your boyfriend. And then eventually you start talking about the more serious things. You start talking about what it would look like to get married. The intimacy keeps progressing. So that's what happened in this relationship. And that's what really made me feel like, aha, this is really somebody whose actions match their words, who says they want marriage, and they are actually moving towards that with me. So that was an important one. The next reason, the next thing that helped me to realize I was dating the right person after toxic relationships was the fact that we had conflicts, right? That's normal. That happens in all relationships, but we were always able to resolve them. This was, again, a big difference from my past toxic relationships. In those relationships, we either didn't have much conflict, like when I was married to the emotionally unavailable person, things would come up, but it was mostly just me voicing things. My partner really just didn't share his perspective. Like there wasn't much coming from his end. So it really felt like we never resolved anything, like maybe once in a while, but it would often just feel like there was an issue that was just in the air and we couldn't move past it. We were just kind of stuck. When I was in that abusive relationship, conflicts would happen all the time, but they would never get resolved because the other person wasn't really willing to hear my perspective, couldn't take that in. That's what that narcissism is, that lack of empathy for the other person. So things didn't get resolved. Now in this relationship, whenever something does come up, we will talk through it and there will always be a resolution. We will both always come away feeling like we hear the other person, we understand the other person, and we may have to compromise a little bit, but it feels good and we both walk away feeling closer to each other and like we've really resolved something and worked together. So the fact that we could do that, we could always find a resolution to conflict, that was a really clear indicator to me that this was the right person. So that's number 4. Number 5, I feel safe in this relationship. It's kind of like, I talked about that feeling of intuition. This is similar. It's like just a background feeling of feeling accepted, chosen, loved, secure. Generally, I just feel really safe in this relationship. And every step of the way, he's been consistent in his commitment to me. And I would say, yeah, I feel the most secure that I ever have in this relationship. And I don't think that I would be able to appreciate it as much as I do now because my past relationships, that was not the case. I did not feel secure. I did not feel safe. I did not feel loved, chosen, appreciated. But now I do. And those things were one of the biggest things that I was looking for in a relationship after those toxic relationships. And the fact that I feel that here, that is a huge clue to me that this is the right person. Because I realized for myself that now that I'm here feeling those things, that's really what makes me happy. That's why I say like I'm the happiest I've ever been in a relationship. Now, I really enjoy the relationship. I enjoy him. I enjoy the fun stuff that we do. But this is the basis for my happiness. So that's moving into the 6th and final reason here. I genuinely like him as a person. And this was important to me because in the past, I really based my relationships on physical attraction, like how attracted was I to this person. And I'm attracted to my partner now, but if I look back at my toxic relationships, I don't think I really liked them as people. And I say that and I'm laughing at it now, but like I was just so blinded by the unconscious attraction that I really couldn't see that. So the way this feels for me now is I just like this person. I just enjoy everything that we do together. Like we can just go to the grocery store and I'm having a great time. Like we don't even have to do anything. We can just be sitting on the couch. And I just enjoy him as a person. And I would say he's like my best friend. And I can really see the two of us and how our life would look like 10 years out, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. You know, it feels like I just genuinely like this person and I can see a future with them. Now, I would have, like, if you had asked me if I had experienced that in my past relationships, I would have been like, oh yeah, no, I really like this person. But if I was honest with myself, what was drawing me to those people was just attraction. It really wasn't that I admired them. It really wasn't that I thought they were good people. That wasn't happening. Sorry for the noise. Oh my gosh. So I'm filming this in my apartment and the door is right there. And sometimes people walk by and they have children and they cry and scream. So sorry about that. But yeah, really this was really important to me, that I found somebody who I genuinely really liked and who I respected as a person. So those were the reasons why I realized that I was dating the right person after toxic relationships. So I hope this helps. Again, if you're interested in working with me, I help my clients release subconscious blocks that help them to feel more comfortable and safe with intimacy so they can let real love in. So click on the link in the description to learn more about that. So I mentioned in this video, I was married to someone who was emotionally unavailable. If you're thinking you might be with someone like that and you want to know more about how it feels, check out this video here.